The Society of the Nine Unknown Men. In the history of humanity, there have always existed secrets that, even after thousands of years, no one has been able to fully unravel, and the Society of the Nine Unknown Men is one of them. Established more than 2,000 years ago by Emperor Ashoka, this secret society is believed to have possessed and protected the most important ancient knowledge of mankind. According to ancient records and legends, after enduring a bloody war with a neighboring kingdom, Ashoka came to truly understand the pain and destruction caused by war. He decided to abandon violence and pursue a path of peace. To prevent valuable knowledge from falling into the hands of evil people, Ashoka chose the 9 most talented scholars of his time and gave them the important responsibility of preserving this knowledge in absolute secrecy. The Society of the Nine Unknown Men operated completely in the shadows and never revealed the identities of its members to the outside world. Each member of the society was assigned to guard one specific field of knowledge, including physics, medicine, alchemy, astronomy, communication, biology, and even mysterious fields such as gravity control or the origins of the universe. When a member died or was unable to continue the mission, a new person would be chosen as a replacement to ensure that the society always maintained exactly 9 members. The story of this secret society became even more intriguing and mysterious when, in 1923, the famous writer Talbot Mundy published a book called The Nine Unknown Men, introducing the existence of this organization to the Western world. Although many people believe this is merely a product of imagination, there are also quite a few who think that Mundy actually gained access to secret information about this society through hidden sources in the East. Even to this day, the secret of the 9 unknown men has never been fully revealed. No one knows for sure whether they still exist and operate somewhere in the world we live in. Yet it is this very ambiguity that creates the irresistible attraction of the story about the mysterious Society of the 9 Unknown Men. The Old Egyptian Chronicle. In the minds of most people, when it comes to ancient Egypt, this land is usually associated with the famous pharaohs and their magnificent pyramids. But there is another story, once mentioned by ancient scholars, that has been almost completely overlooked by mainstream history, and if true, it could fundamentally change the way we view the origins of Egyptian civilization. This story begins with a mysterious document known as the Old Egyptian Chronicle, or the Ancient Egyptian Annals. The original manuscript of this document no longer exists, but in the 9th century, a scholar named George Syncellus happened to discover a copy that recorded its most important details. He devoted many years to studying it and ultimately compiled what remained in a book called the Book of Sothis. This book is not an ordinary chronicle, because what it describes goes far beyond the boundaries of modern knowledge about Egyptian history. According to the Old Egyptian Chronicle, Egypt once had 30 consecutive dynasties, totaling 113 generations of kings, with a combined history spanning 36,525 years. This is an astonishing number that no modern scholar can confirm, and no other civilization is believed to have lasted for such a long period. Yet what is truly remarkable is not just this number, but the origins of the first rulers, as described in the document. In this record, the first dynasty is called the Orites, and the rulers of Egypt at that time were not humans but sun gods. Chief among them was the god Helios, who is said to have ruled Egypt for 30,000 years. What followed Helios's reign was an era of his descendants, beings of divine origin who ruled for nearly 4,000 more years. After that came the age of the demigods, 8 of whom ascended the throne and reigned together for 217 years. Then, power was handed down to a group called the Mesetes. These were the final descendants of the demigods, who held the throne for 443 years. Ultimately, power fell into the hands of the pharaohs that modern history often refers to. In this list, the final dynasty is named Tanit, which many scholars believe may be linked to the ancient city of Tanis in the Nile Delta, though to this day, no one can say for certain. The emergence of the Old Egyptian Chronicle has changed the way people think about Egyptian history, because it is not just a chronicle but also a depiction of the transition from mythology to reality. Within it, immortal gods and divine beings successively hand power down to real human kings, until at some point, history becomes more familiar to us through official archaeological records. This also calls to mind another famous document, the Sumerian King List, in which the first kings are also described as having lifespans of thousands of years before more reasonable, mortal kings began to appear. All of these records raise a profound question that, to this day, no one has been able to answer with certainty. Did ancient Egypt really experience an era when gods walked the earth? Or are the extraordinary numbers in the annals merely products of imagination? Did the Egyptians want to believe that their origins lay with immortal gods to affirm the sacred status of their land? Or were they truly preserving an ancient memory that modern humanity has since forgotten? The old Egyptian chronicle remains a mysterious fragment of history, a place where the boundary between reality and legend becomes blurred. That is why, no matter how much time passes, stories like this continue to fascinate those who are drawn to the mysteries of history. Jesus. For centuries, the story of Jesus has remained a subject both sacred and filled with countless mysteries. For billions of people around the world, the image of a savior with mythic qualities has become the very foundation of their faith. However, alongside these familiar legends, there have always existed controversial theories about the true origins of this remarkable figure. There was a time when the media was abuzz with reports about an archaeological discovery at Rosslyn Chapel, a site long associated with numerous legends surrounding the Knights Templar. According to widely circulated articles, a team of researchers had found there the true cross, believed to be the very cross upon which Jesus was crucified. Not stopping there, the scientists even claimed that they had obtained a blood sample remaining on the wood of the cross and had begun DNA analysis in hopes of finding answers to the lingering mysteries of Christian history. The results of this DNA analysis quickly became one of the most hotly debated topics among researchers. Instead of discovering the ordinary DNA structure found in modern humans, the scientists announced that they had identified an entirely different structure with 3 helical strands, instead of the 2 everyone is familiar with. This DNA belonged to a species dubbed Homo superioris, said to possess supernatural abilities far beyond those of ordinary humans, from the power to heal wounds rapidly to phenomena like telepathy, and even the ability to manipulate the basic laws of physics. It was from here that a bold hypothesis emerged. Some suggested that Jesus may not have been an ordinary human being, but rather a member of a superhuman species that once lived hidden among us on Earth. They argued that the miracles Jesus performed could have arisen from the natural abilities of this species. According to this theory, after being crucified, Jesus did not die as an ordinary person would, but instead used his powers to vanish from the world. However, it is important to emphasize that all of the above stories and conclusions remain completely unproven by any credible scientific evidence to this day. The information about 3-stranded DNA, the existence of Homo superioris, or the discovery of the true cross at Rosslyn Chapel all originate from unverified sources and are most often spread on forums or websites dedicated to supernatural theories. For most scientists and scholars of religious history, such theories remain simply stories shrouded in mystery. The questions about the true identity of Jesus, the real meaning of his miracles, and the relationship between faith and modern science will no doubt continue to be subjects of endless debate. The world's oldest mummy. When people think of mummies, most immediately picture the preserved bodies of ancient Egyptians. For generations, Egypt has been seen as the cradle of the art of mummification. However, a recent archaeological discovery has astonished both experts and history enthusiasts alike, forcing a reconsideration of this long-held belief. Scientists have just confirmed that the world's oldest mummy is not found in Egypt, but in the Sado Valley of Portugal. The skeletal remains discovered here have been dated to be around 8,000 years old, far surpassing the famous Chinchorro mummies of Chile, which were previously hailed by experts as the world's oldest. The Chinchorro mummies, dating back up to 7,000 years, once stood as the symbol of advanced and sophisticated prehistoric mummification techniques in South America. The mummification process, practiced by ancient people in the Sado Valley, was very different from the Egyptian style. The ancients here performed a ritual that was both remarkably strange and intricate. When a member of the community died, the body would be placed in a fetal position, legs bent close to the chest, arms wrapped around the knees, and the entire body tightly bound with multiple loops of rope. Throughout the period when the body began to dry and decompose, family or community members would continually tighten the ropes to keep the body as compact as possible. After many days, or even weeks, the corpse would eventually shrink into a small, dry bundle of bones, resembling a ball. This method not only preserved the skeleton, but even retained some soft tissue, allowing the remains to survive almost intact for thousands of years beneath the earth. The discovery of the mummies in Sado has raised a host of significant questions for modern archaeology. Did this mummification technique arise independently in Portugal, or could it have spread along the Mediterranean coast? Was there once a wave of cultural exchange or prehistoric migration between Europe and Africa that we have never known about? To this day, no one can provide definite answers to these questions. Yet, the finding of the world's oldest mummies in Sado does more than open a new chapter in the study of human history. It also compels us to reconsider our ingrained assumptions about the development and spread of ancient burial customs. The story of the Sado mummies stands as evidence that the prehistoric world still holds countless unanswered mysteries, and that every new discovery can change the way we understand the very origins of our own species. Prehistoric giants in China. In the ongoing search for the origins and diversity of humankind, science has more than once accidentally opened doors to the past, where all of our familiar concepts about human history seem to be challenged to the core. One of the most astonishing discoveries in recent years comes from northern China, where archaeologists unearthed giant fossils named Homo longi, also known by another name, the Dragon Man. This fossil quickly drew the attention of the global scientific community, not only because of its remarkable age, but also due to its extraordinary characteristics. Researchers determined that the skull of Homo longi has a cranial capacity of up to 109 cubic inches, much larger than that of modern humans, and far exceeding even the famously robust Neanderthals. When placed next to the average Homo sapiens skull, the difference is unmistakable. This raises profound questions about the cognitive abilities, physical strength, and lifestyle of these giant humans who once existed on Asian soil. The discovery of Homo longi does not simply add a new link to the chain of human evolution, but also suggests the possibility that multiple independent evolutionary branches may have coexisted in the past. According to paleontologists, these prehistoric giants may have lived between 200,000 and 300,000 years ago, during a period when the harsh climate of the Ice Age posed serious survival challenges for any species. The question arises, did Homo longi ever coexist with the ancestors of modern humans? Many researchers believe it is entirely possible that some of Homo longi's physical or genetic traits have persisted in today's human populations. What is noteworthy is that these findings go beyond the boundaries of science, breathing new life into ancient legends that have existed for thousands of years in human culture. For a long time, both Eastern and Western civilizations have passed down stories of giants who once appeared and then vanished from the world of men. In Western ancient texts, these gigantic beings are often called Nephilim, who were said to have ruled the earth before the Great Flood. Although the answers remain elusive, the discovery of Homo longi has truly blurred the line between legend and reality more than ever before. The Great Flood of You, the great, legend, and archaeological truth. Among the vast trove of Eastern ancient tales, no legend is more deeply etched into the memory of the Chinese people than the story of the Great Flood during the era of Yu the Great. This is a myth that has been passed down for thousands of years, telling of a catastrophic natural disaster that nearly swept away the fledgling civilization along the banks of the Yellow River. According to legend, during the time of Emperor Yao, China faced the most devastating flood in its history. The river waters rose, submerging fields and homes, forcing thousands to flee to higher ground. Emperor Yao entrusted Gun, a high-ranking minister, with the task of controlling the waters, but every attempt failed. Gun tried to build dikes and embankments to hold back the water, but the floods kept coming, overwhelming everything humans had created. After many years of persistent but fruitless effort, Gun was punished, and his son inherited the responsibility of stopping the disaster. Unlike his father, Yu did not try to block the floodwaters, but instead chose to dig channels to divert the water into low-lying areas. In this way, he gradually brought the waters under control and redirected the course of the flood, rather than confronting it head-on. Over the course of 13 arduous years, Yu and his associates dug hundreds of channels, large and small, transforming the devastating floods into stable rivers. For centuries, the story of Yu the Great remained just a legend. However, advances in modern archaeology have brought a new and convincing perspective. Geologists and archaeologists have discovered unusually thick layers of ancient silt deep beneath the Yellow River, dating back to around 1900 BCE. Geological studies indicate that, at that time, a massive earthquake caused a mountain landslide that blocked the Yellow River, forming a giant lake. After years of accumulating water, this natural dam suddenly burst, releasing an immense flood. What archaeologists have found appears to confirm parts of the tale handed down through generations. As a result, the legend of Yu controlling the flood is no longer merely a story, but has become a symbol of human determination in the face of adversity, as well as a testament to the adaptability and resilience of an ancient civilization. The mysterious Tartessos civilization in Spain. About 2,500 years ago, Tartessos was not only a center of power in southwestern Spain, but also a crossroads of trade. The people of Tartessos were renowned for their exceptional metallurgical skills and advanced shipbuilding techniques. Most notably, they were immensely wealthy in gold and silver resources, which quickly helped them rise to prominence as a commercial power in the ancient Mediterranean world. However, most of what we know about Tartessos comes from scattered writings of Greek and Roman authors, and even from ancient lines in the Bible, where Tartessos is referred to as Tarshish, a city once famed for its ships laden with precious gold and silver sailing across the sea to the land of King Solomon. Many scholars have long debated whether Tartessos might actually have been the inspiration for the famous Atlantis legend recounted by Plato. Yet, while Atlantis exists only in the realm of mythology, the existence of Tartessos is supported by archaeological evidence. Archaeologists have discovered numerous sites and artifacts in the lower reaches of the Guadalquivir River, ranging from the ruins of cities buried beneath layers of silt to metallurgical workshops and a wealth of exquisite pottery. What makes Tartessos such a great mystery in the history of Spain lies not only in its remarkable development, but also in its sudden disappearance. No one knows the exact cause of the fall of Tartessos. Some scholars believe that their fertile lands may have been swallowed by a catastrophic flood, wiping away all traces of a once thriving civilization. Others suspect that conflicts with powerful rivals like Carthage or sweeping geopolitical changes pushed Tartessos to the brink of extinction. There are also theories that sudden climate changes played a part in bringing an end to a glorious chapter in the history of the Iberian Peninsula. Today, although the traces of Tartessos have mostly been buried by the passage of time, the stories of this civilization continue to stir the imagination of researchers and history enthusiasts alike. The Black Sea Deluge. Human history has recorded many times when natural disasters possess the power to alter entire civilizations. One of the most mysterious stories is the hypothesis of the Black Sea Deluge, a catastrophe believed to have submerged not only the fertile lands surrounding the Black Sea, but perhaps also planted the seeds for immortal legends in humanity's memory. In 1997, scientist William Ryan and his colleagues published a hypothesis that sent shockwaves through the world of ancient studies. According to their theory, the present-day Black Sea was once a vast freshwater lake where, thousands of years ago, ancient peoples built villages, farmed, and developed a civilization. But everything changed irreversibly when the waters of the Mediterranean suddenly surged through the Bosphorus and poured into this lake. The torrent of salt water swept in, inundating everything humans had built and transforming the freshwater lake into the wide Black Sea we know today. Researchers estimate that this event occurred around 7,600 years ago, with a force powerful enough to wash away entire lakeside settlements. In an instant, villages, farmlands, and even early civilizations sank beneath the waves, leaving behind a legacy for future generations to discover only much later. What makes the Black Sea flood hypothesis particularly remarkable is not only the scale and destructive power of the event, but also its uncanny resemblance to the great flood legends found in the Bible and in ancient traditions across many cultures. Could it be that the memory of the Black Sea disaster became the inspiration for the story of Noah? Modern archaeological discoveries have also added important evidence to this hypothesis. When scientists surveyed the bottom of the Black Sea, they discovered traces of man-made structures, ruins of houses buried as deep as 100 meters beneath the surface. These findings indicate that there was once vibrant life on the shores of this immense freshwater lake before the modern Black Sea emerged and concealed it all. Today, although there is still much debate about the true scale and impact of the Black Sea deluge, this hypothesis nonetheless offers us an entirely new perspective on ancient history. It is not just a reminder of the unpredictable power of nature. It also raises questions within us about the fragility of civilizations and about how collective memory can be transformed into legend and passed down through countless generations. Floods and the transformation of the Sahara. Perhaps very few of us can imagine that the Sahara was once a land of abundance, and vitality. Around 11,000 years ago, the Sahara was a place where rivers converged, crystal-clear lakes shimmered, dense forests thrived, and even vast grasslands provided habitat for migrating animals and ancient human communities who pioneered the first cultures. It was a landscape entirely at odds with what we see today. The transformation of the Sahara was not solely the result of natural climate changes, but also bore the profound imprint of human activity. Scholar David Wright, an environmental archaeology expert, has put forth a notable hypothesis about why this region became so arid. According to him, the introduction of animal husbandry, especially when ancient people brought goats into the Sahara, set off a chain reaction that altered the ecosystem. Herds of goats devoured the low-lying vegetation, reducing the amount of moisture released from the ground and leading to a decline in rainfall. As the plant cover disappeared, the land lost its ability to retain moisture, and desertification accelerated rapidly, bringing about the collapse of the human communities that had once thrived there. Alongside these scientific explanations, the Sahara is also the cradle of numerous legends and mysterious theories, the most prominent of which is the story of Atlantis. Some researchers have boldly linked the location of the Eye of the Sahara, a giant geological formation in the heart of Mauritania, with the remains of Atlantis. According to the Atlantis-Sahara theory, this great city once flourished here before being swept away by a cataclysmic flood. However, mainstream scientists continue to firmly reject this hypothesis. In their view, the Eye of the Sahara is merely a natural geological phenomenon formed over millions of years by changes in the Earth's crust, with no archaeological evidence or material remains to suggest that it was ever the center of a magnificent civilization. Yet, despite the controversy, the idea of an Atlantis buried beneath the golden sands of the Sahara remains especially captivating to those who are fascinated by historical mysteries and who are ever eager to explore the true limits of human imagination and knowledge. The Giants of Nevada. Long before Europeans ever set foot in the land that is now Nevada, the native inhabitants here had already been passing down a mysterious legend about the existence of a race of giants with a frightening appearance and an unusually aggressive nature. The Paiute tribe, who have lived for centuries in this vast desert region, always warned their descendants to be extremely cautious of the beings they called the Siteka, a race of giants with bright red hair and a nature so fierce it was terrifying. According to these ancient stories, the Siteka were not simply giants, but they also had a gruesome habit of hunting and eating humans. Because of this, for many generations, there were constant and extremely fierce battles between the Paiute and these giants. The ongoing conflicts eventually led the Paiute to decide on a major battle to end the brutality of the Siteka. The story goes that Paiute warriors forced the Siteka giants deep into a large cave near the present-day town of Lovelock. To make sure that not a single one of them could escape, the Paiute stacked dry wood and kindling at the entrance to the cave and set it on fire, shooting flaming arrows to ignite the pile, so that all of the giants inside either burned to death or suffocated and could not escape. Hundreds of years later, the cave where the Siteka giants met their end was sealed by a major earthquake. However, in 1920, workers from the Sunset Mining Company, while mining bat guano in a cave near Lovelock, accidentally discovered some remarkable artifacts. They found two giant human skeletons, each measuring more than 2.4 meters in height, a compelling piece of evidence for the stories that the Paiute had recounted for centuries. But it was at the very moment when people were hoping for more research to either prove or completely disprove this mysterious legend that the two skeletons suddenly disappeared under mysterious circumstances. To this day, no one knows exactly what happened to those giant skeletons, and this event has only added to the mystery of the legend of the Siteka giants. Were the stories told by the Paiute just folklore, or did giants really once walk this land? The Atlantis coin. Among the countless mysteries that human history has yet to solve, the story of the legendary city of Atlantis has always held a special place, capturing the attention of generations of researchers and archaeologists around the world. However, despite many theories and numerous searches, the true trace of this city has never been found. But that may be about to change thanks to a strange ancient coin, which appeared more than 2 millennia ago and contains priceless information about the actual location of Atlantis. The person who laid the foundation for this discovery is Professor Mark McMenamin, a renowned geologist known for his groundbreaking research in the search for ancient traces. During a survey, he accidentally discovered an ancient coin from the Carthaginian civilization, dating back about 2,400 years, with one side depicting a strange map believed to contain information about the land of legendary Atlantis. Notably, this map clearly shows the Mediterranean Sea along with a landmass previously unknown, situated directly opposite the Strait of Gibraltar, which the ancient Greeks called the Pillars of Hercules. According to records left by the ancient Greek philosopher Plato, Atlantis was once an extremely advanced, wealthy, and powerful civilization located just beyond the Strait of Gibraltar, but later was engulfed by a terrible catastrophe and disappeared forever beneath the ocean. For that reason, this Carthaginian coin could be the crucial evidence proving that Atlantis once existed, not just in Plato's imagination, but also in the awareness of other ancient peoples who lived during that era. Another figure connected to this discovery is Christos, who, together with Professor McMenamin, carefully studied and analyzed every detail on the coin. Although Christos's full surname remains unverified, his contribution to this research is undeniable. Christos asserted that the image engraved on the ancient Carthaginian coin matched in a remarkable way with Plato's description of Atlantis, and that this could be a vital key to pinpointing exactly where this city once existed. While this finding still requires further study from the scientific community, it is clear that the ancient Carthaginian coin has opened up new hope in the search for the legendary city of Atlantis. Who knows, in the not-so-distant future, what seemed to exist only in myth and legend may officially be confirmed as truth, completely changing the way we understand history and ancient civilizations. The Tomb of Jesus, one of humanity's greatest mysteries, spanning thousands of years, centers on a small site located in the heart of the ancient city of Jerusalem. This is believed to be the place where Jesus was buried after his crucifixion, a centuries-old tomb lying deep beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the most sacred site in the Christian world. For the past 2 millennia, this tomb has become the most important and revered pilgrimage destination for millions of believers around the globe. But it has also remained at the center of countless debates and doubts. Many scientists and historians have continuously questioned the authenticity of this site, wondering whether it truly was the final resting place of Jesus, or if it is simply an ancient tradition built on faith. Recent scientific surveys have sparked new hope for a definitive answer to that question. A team of researchers from the National Technical University of Athens used the most advanced technology to thoroughly examine and analyze the ancient tomb beneath the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. Initial studies showed that the structure of this limestone tomb is at least 1,700 years old, dating back to the 4th century, a period that matches the time when Roman Emperor Constantine built this place as a symbol to commemorate the suffering and resurrection of Jesus. Precisely dating the tomb is an important step, bringing us closer to confirming its connection with Jesus. However, even when the age of the tomb is verified, the greatest question still remains. Is this truly the place where Jesus was laid to rest after his crucifixion, and where he was resurrected as recorded in the Bible? Although researchers have yet to provide a final answer, the ancient tomb in Jerusalem remains a powerful spiritual symbol, closely tied to the faith of millions. Whether or not an official answer is ever given, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the tomb beneath it will always be a sacred place, a meeting point between history, belief, and the eternal mysteries that humanity has always longed to unravel. Ancient female hunters. For a long time, researchers believed that hunting was a task reserved only for men, while women mainly took on gathering and childcare. But a surprising discovery in the remote Andes Mountains has completely changed this perception, revealing that ancient women also carried spears and hunted across rugged lands more than 9,000 years ago. Archaeologists unearthed a prehistoric grave deep in the high mountains of the Andes in South America. When they carefully analyzed the remains inside the grave, they were astonished to find that these were the bones of a woman, buried alongside hunting weapons typically associated with men, such as stone-tipped spears, knives, and tools for crafting hunting equipment. This clearly proved that this woman had truly been a hunter, holding a role just as important as her male counterparts. This discovery has forced the field of archaeology to reconsider the role of women in ancient societies, especially in hunter-gatherer communities. Further studies have also shown that this was not an isolated case. Many similar graves have been found across South America, indicating that women's participation in prehistoric hunting was actually quite common. rather than rare as previously believed. These ancient Andean women were not simply helpers or companions to male hunters. They were skilled hunters in their own right and were pillars of major hunting expeditions for their tribes. They used sharp skills, dexterity, courage, and strength to survive in a harsh and challenging natural environment. This discovery not only changes our understanding of human history, but also helps break down many stereotypes about gender and the roles of women in society. Perhaps it is time for us to recognize that women have always been an indispensable part of humanity, standing side by side with men in all areas of life, right from the earliest days of civilization. Roman-era VIP seating in Turkey. The culture of distinguishing social positions and granting privileges to the elite is hardly a modern phenomenon. It has existed throughout human history. One of the clearest pieces of evidence for this was recently uncovered in the ancient city of Pergamon, located in what is now Turkey, where archaeologists have discovered a special seating area reserved for the most important individuals of Roman times nearly 1,800 years ago. Pergamon, once one of the leading cultural and political centers of the ancient Roman Empire, was famous for its massive architectural works, from its gigantic theater to its majestic temples. However, during a recent excavation at an ancient arena in the center of the city, researchers noticed a series of special seats that were completely different from the thousands of other seats meant for ordinary spectators. These special seats were crafted from the finest stone, carefully and intricately carved, with the names of important figures or the most powerful families of the era engraved on them. According to archaeological experts, this was a VIP area reserved for the aristocracy, high-ranking officials, and the most prominent wealthy individuals of Roman society, allowing them to enjoy entertainment events from the best and most comfortable vantage points. The discovery of the VIP seating area at Pergamon not only reveals the sharp social hierarchy of ancient Roman civilization, but also shows us that the desire for priority and special privilege has existed for a very long time in human history. Even after thousands of years, the wish to enjoy social privileges and express one's status seems never to have changed. Today, standing among the ancient ruins of Pergamon, one can easily imagine the bustling scene of thousands gathering here to cheer on gladiators or enjoy outstanding artistic performances. And right on these special seats, the elite of Roman society once enjoyed privileges that were not available to everyone. The Plain of Jars in Laos. Hidden amid the lush green plateaus of northern Laos lies a strange and mysterious land where thousands of giant stone jars have been scattered for more than 2,000 years. Yet no one has ever been able to clearly explain their true origin or purpose. This enigmatic site is famously known as the Plain of Jars, one of the most important archaeological locations in Southeast Asia. These stone jars are not ordinary objects, but intricately crafted megaliths, varying in size from just a few dozen centimeters to more than 2 meters in height, and weighing from several hundred kilograms to several tons. Archaeologists who have come to study the site are consistently amazed by the remarkably sophisticated stoneworking skills of these ancient people. Experts believe that the jars may have once been used for burial rituals, since next to some of the jars, traces of human bones and funeral objects have been discovered. However, the fact that these jars are scattered over such a vast area, instead of being grouped in fixed locations, has left researchers even more puzzled. This has made their true purpose one of humanity's greatest unsolved mysteries. Some local legends even say that the jars were left behind by giants after great drinking feasts, or that they are the products of an ancient civilization with miraculous skills for building and moving gigantic stones, abilities that we still cannot explain today. These legendary tales have only added to the fascination and allure of the site for tourists and researchers alike. Despite having endured more than 2,000 years and the ravages of war, thousands of these stone jars remain standing, as if challenging our understanding of the past. Today, when visiting the Plain of Jars in Laos, people are not only able to witness a mysterious archaeological wonder, but also to feel deeply humbled by the mysteries that history continues to hide beneath the mists of time. The Legend of Thule. In ancient times, when humanity was still unaware of the full extent of the world they lived in, many stories were told about distant, mysterious lands that lay beyond familiar boundaries. One of the most fascinating of these is the legend of Thule, a place at the very edge of the ancient world, mentioned by the famous Roman poet Virgil. In his vividly imaginative verses, Virgil described Thule as a wild and mysterious land where Once the sun had set below the horizon, it would never rise again, leaving the land in eternal darkness. Thousands of years later, in the early 20th century, when the leaders of Nazi Germany were searching for a mythical and mysterious origin for the Aryan race they so revered, they unexpectedly recalled the old legend of Thule. They quickly became convinced that Thule was not just a mythical place, but a real location that once existed on Earth. The Nazis strongly believed that Thule was present-day Iceland, and they asserted that Iceland had once been inhabited by the ancient and superior Hyperborean people, the original and powerful ancestors of the Aryan race that Nazi ideology so proudly claimed. This strong belief in the story led Heinrich Himmler, one of the most powerful figures in Nazi Germany and the supreme leader of the SS, to organize a special expedition to Iceland in 1938. The purpose was to search for real evidence that could prove the existence of the legendary land of Thule. Himmler and his associates hoped to find ancient temples or mysterious relics related to the Aryan ancestors they admired, thereby further reinforcing the theory of a superior Aryan race and asserting their dominance to the world. However, from the moment the expedition arrived in Iceland, they encountered many difficulties as the Icelandic government was entirely unwelcoming and continually prevented them from carrying out their surveys. Even so, the Nazi expedition still claimed that they had found a mysterious cave believed to be a site where ancient Aryans once performed worship rituals. But this claim was not supported by any concrete evidence, causing people to quickly doubt the authenticity of the information. At the end of their journey in 1938, the Nazis were unable to provide any clear or credible evidence for the legendary land of Thule, and this has left Thule as an unsolved story that continues to endure. The Nazis and the Witch Hunt File. Throughout the years of Nazi rule, Heinrich Himmler was known not only as the supreme leader of the powerful SS, but also as a man deeply obsessed with the most mysterious and mystical aspects of human history. One subject that captured Himmler's particular attention was the bloody history of witch trials that took place across Europe during the Middle Ages. Driven by the belief that these trials were not merely ruthless court proceedings but part of a dark conspiracy to eliminate innocent Aryan women and suppress ancient German beliefs, Himmler decided to use these historical events to launch an aggressive propaganda campaign against the Catholic Church. In 1935, Himmler established a special department within the SS known as the Witch Hunt File, whose sole purpose was to collect and analyze all historical documents related to medieval witch trials across Europe. The aim was to produce convincing evidence to accuse the Catholic Church of having orchestrated campaigns to persecute and destroy innocent German women. Himmler appointed Rudolf Levin to lead this strange and controversial mission, and Levin quickly organized a team of talented researchers and historians to conduct this ambitious investigation. During their work, the Hexenkartothek team compiled thousands of records and detailed documents about witch trials that had taken place over the centuries, from small rural court cases to large-scale, violent hunts in major cities across Germany and throughout Europe. With each document they collected, Himmler and Levin directed the team to search for concrete proof that the Catholic Church had used these trials as tools to eradicate the indigenous beliefs and culture of the Aryan people. They claimed that innocent German women were falsely accused and suffered tragic deaths under the guise of religious authority. The results of this investigation were then thoroughly exploited by the Nazis in nationwide propaganda campaigns, in which the Catholic Church was depicted as a malevolent force responsible for brutal acts aimed at destroying the German people and undermining the original Aryan culture. These powerful messages spread rapidly, quickly leading many Germans to believe that the painful history of the witch trials was the clearest evidence of the deep-seated hostility the Catholic Church had long held toward the German people and their culture. However, despite the efforts of Himmler and the Hexenkartothek team, this propaganda campaign could not be sustained indefinitely. By the late 1930s, Adolf Hitler himself decided to scale back the intensity of anti-church campaigns out of concern that pushing them too far would cause deep divisions within Germany, where the vast majority of people still maintained a strong faith in Catholicism and the traditional values that religion provided. The Nazis and the study of magic. Heinrich Himmler was not only obsessed with the legendary origins of the Aryan people and ancient mystical artifacts, but he was also particularly fascinated by magical traditions and witchcraft rituals that survived in remote, far-flung lands, places he believed still preserved mysterious powers from ancient times. Among these lands, Himmler was especially interested in Karelia, a region in northern Europe that today stretches across Russia, Finland, and Sweden, long famous for its tradition of magic, ghostly tales, and powerful witches in local folklore. In 1935, Himmler happened to read an article in a Frankfurt newspaper about Karelia's rich and mysterious culture of witchcraft. Instantly captivated by its mysterious details, he decided to organize a special expedition to this northern land to explore. Himmler hoped that, through this journey, he would have a chance to learn about and document magical rituals he believed could be used to strengthen the regime's power, as well as uncover more ancient Aryan secrets he had always sought. In the summer of 1936, the expedition organized by Himmler included several researchers, a Finnish illustrator named Ola Forsell, and a musicologist named Fritz Bose. Himmler understood that the local people of Karelia were usually reluctant to share their magical rituals with outsiders, so he specifically asked Ola Forsell to document everything in vivid sketches, while Fritz Bose was tasked with recording songs, spells, and prayers of the witches they might encounter. After a long search through small villages in Karelia, the expedition finally met a female witch who was greatly respected and feared by the local people. Her name was recorded as Mionau, though no one knew for sure if that was her real name. From the moment she met the Nazi expedition, she declared she had foreseen their arrival in dreams and omens from the spiritual world. Though at first she was hesitant and unwilling to reveal her secrets, after much persuasion and promises from the expedition, Mionau agreed to perform an ancient magical ritual in front of the Nazis' cameras and recording devices. The ceremony took place in an atmosphere that was both solemn and mysterious. The witch Mionau conducted a special rite to summon ancestral spirits and spiritual forces, and she also foretold future events, all of which Himmler's researchers documented in detail. However, after the ritual ended, no one knew exactly what information the expedition obtained, as all the related records and materials quickly disappeared or were destroyed afterward. To this day, the truth behind the Nazis' magical research expedition to Karelia remains a major unanswered question, leaving people to wonder whether Himmler and his researchers actually discovered something of value, or if it was merely a journey in pursuit of the regime's strange fantasies. The Forbidden Experiment, the origins of language. In the history of humanity, there have been experiments that haunt us not only because of their outcomes, but because of their inherently cruel nature. One such experiment was the quest to discover the origins of language, an obsession for many ancient kings, emperors, and philosophers. This experiment came to be known as the Forbidden Experiment, an extreme method where children were raised without any exposure to language whatsoever, in the hope of uncovering the original language of humankind. According to ancient records, this experiment was first known to have taken place in ancient Egypt, under the reign of Pharaoh Psamtik I. The king ordered that 2 newborn babies be handed over to a shepherd to be raised, but with strict instructions that no one should speak to them or allow them any contact with people who could talk. Pharaoh believed that if there were no outside influences, the 2 children would naturally speak the most primitive language of humanity. The experiment ended in disappointment, as all the children uttered were random sounds, later interpreted by adults as an ancient word. The reality was that neither child developed a natural language, instead living in a state of silence and mental deficiency. Centuries later, the experiment was mentioned again under Emperor Frederick II of the Holy Roman Empire. Once more, infants were completely isolated from all speech and communication, with the hope that they would speak the language of Adam and Eve. But the outcome was even more tragic. All the children died from a lack of emotional and social care. In Scotland, King James IV also once sent 2 children to a deserted island with a mute woman. He hoped the children would spontaneously develop a language and eventually claimed that they spoke ancient Hebrew. However, this story lacks any reliable evidence and is most likely just a legend that was embellished over time. Later, Emperor Akbar of India also carried out a similar experiment, with the result that the children grew up unable to speak, only able to communicate through gestures or meaningless sounds. These forbidden experiments were not limited to the ancient world. In the 20th century, the world witnessed another great tragedy when tens of thousands of orphans in Romania were abandoned in orphanages, leading to psychological and emotional damage that could never be healed. What humanity has learned from these cruel experiments is that language is not an innate gift that everyone possesses from birth, but something that must be learned from the surrounding society. The Inga Stone. Deep within the heart of Brazil's Amazon rainforest, in a place where modern humans rarely set foot, stands an ancient stone known as the Inga Stone. As you approach this site, the stone emerges impressively from the untouched wilderness, standing nearly 4 meters high and stretching more than 46 meters in length. The size of the Inga Stone is actually greater than many famous monuments in Egypt, which has made it a mysterious symbol of South America for hundreds of years. But what makes the Inga Stone most remarkable is not just its massive shape, but the symbols and carvings that cover its entire surface. If you stand in front of this stone, you will see hundreds of strange characters arranged in rows and columns without any clear pattern. Some symbols resemble drawings of humans or animals, while others are geometric lines and shapes unlike anything found elsewhere in the world. Many of the carvings on the Inga Stone are reminiscent of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, with strong symbolic images, while other characters remind researchers of the script used by the Phoenicians, who once flourished on the shores of the Mediterranean thousands of years ago. Some have even noted similarities between the symbols on the Inga Stone and the mysterious petroglyphs found on Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean, a place also famous for vanished civilizations that left behind no trace. Because of the richness and diversity of these carvings, the Inga Stone has become a subject of debate among archaeologists and historians for generations. Some researchers believe that these engravings represent an ancient script dating back as far as 6,000 years, which may have once been used to convey important messages from a now lost civilization. They base this on the weathering of the carvings and the isolated location of the stone deep in the forest, strengthening the theory that this place was once a center for ancient worship or astronomy. However, there are also many who disagree, arguing that the symbols on the Inga Stone actually appeared only in the 18th century. According to these scholars, it was the local Brazilian people of that era who carved the stone as part of religious ceremonies or simply as a form of folk art passed down through generations. Alongside these ongoing debates, several notable researchers, such as engineer Francisco Pavia Alemany from Spain and Austrian archaeologist Ludwig Schwenhagen, have each proposed their own theories to explain this mystery. Francisco believes that the Inga Stone is actually an ancient astronomical calendar. In his view, the symbols on the rock's surface are not an ordinary language, but a system for recording the positions of the sun, moon, and planets at specific times of the year. If this hypothesis is correct, then the Inga Stone could have once helped people predict the seasons, natural phenomena, and even important astronomical events. Meanwhile, Ludwig Schwenhagen has noticed surprising similarities between the symbols on the Inga Stone and the ancient scripts of distant cultures such as Egypt or Phoenicia. This coincidence has raised the question of whether there might have been a connection or contact between ancient civilizations on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. Some modern scholars have even called the Inga Stone the Rosetta Stone of the Americas, believing that if someone could decipher these symbols, they might open the door to a whole new chapter of history for the entire continent. However, up to now, despite countless efforts and research projects spanning decades, no one has been able to provide a final answer to the true meaning of the mysterious symbols covering the surface of the Inga Stone. Archaeological teams, linguists, and mystery enthusiasts alike continue to search for clues every time they venture into the wilds of South America. Yet the Inga Stone remains there, quietly standing in the midst of untamed nature, serving as a reminder of the unsolved mysteries of human history, and as an enduring symbol of our endless curiosity about the world's unanswered secrets. The immortal jellyfish and the mystery of eternal life in the Epic of Gilgamesh. Deep within the vast ocean, where life unfolds in silence and countless strange creatures remain hidden in the shadows, there is a tiny species of jellyfish called Turritopsis dohrnii, often referred to as the immortal jellyfish. At first glance, the immortal jellyfish appears rather unremarkable, possessing only a fragile, transparent body of very small size. However, what has astonished scientists around the world is its ability to survive beyond the natural limits that render most other living things powerless. When faced with severe injury or the final stage of its life cycle, the immortal jellyfish does not succumb to death as dictated by ordinary laws, but instead triggers a special process of cellular transformation. In this process, its entire body reverts to the earliest juvenile stage, like a flower closing up before blooming once again. The jellyfish then grows back into a mature individual, and if it encounters danger or old age again, it repeats this cycle as many times as necessary. In theory, A single Turritopsis dohrnii jellyfish could live forever, provided it is not killed by outside factors such as disease or natural predators. The jellyfish's ability to turn back the clock has sparked much debate in the scientific community about the boundaries of life and the secrets of immortality that humanity has always yearned for since ancient times. Interestingly, the idea of eternal life appears very early in human history, specifically in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a renowned work that originated in the land of Sumer nearly 5,000 years ago. The epic tells of Gilgamesh, the mighty king of Uruk, who, after witnessing the death of his closest friend, becomes haunted by the reality of mortality and develops an obsession with the dream of everlasting life. On his quest to find the secret of immortality, Gilgamesh endures countless hardships before meeting Utnapishtim, the only human granted immortality by the gods, after surviving the legendary Great Flood. Utnapishtim not only recounts for Gilgamesh the painful memories of mankind, but also tells him of a mysterious plant lying deep beneath the sea, described as soft and moving like a living creature. According to the epic, this plant is the key to rejuvenation and longevity. Gilgamesh exerts all his strength to dive into the deep, lightless waters in search of this plant. He ultimately succeeds in retrieving it, but on his return to land, a snake secretly steals the precious item, and thus the secret of immortality slips from human grasp once again. Gilgamesh's journey ends with his acceptance that the fate of humanity is to live and die as an inevitable part of nature, even though he came so close to the boundary between mortals and the divine. The big question is, how did the Sumerians, 5,000 years ago, conceive of an image of an undersea plant capable of rejuvenation and immortality? An image strikingly similar to the immortal jellyfish that modern science has only recently discovered? Some say it is merely a coincidence or a subtle metaphor for the timeless human longing for eternal life. Yet others suggest that these ancient records show that people of the past observed nature with extraordinary care, and sometimes they discovered secrets that humanity would only begin to unravel thousands of years later. Whatever the truth may be, the uncanny connection between the immortal jellyfish in the ocean and the image of immortality in the Epic of Gilgamesh remains a testament to the boundless imagination of humanity and the enduring desire to unlock the mystery of eternal life throughout history. The survival of birds. After the asteroid catastrophe, about 66 million years ago, one of the greatest events ever to occur on Earth took place when a massive asteroid collided with what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. The destructive power of the impact swiftly wiped out most life on the planet, including the famous dinosaurs that had dominated every corner of the natural world for millions of years. However, what not everyone realizes is that a handful of small bird species managed to survive that mass extinction, and from them descended all the modern birds we see today. Scientists have spent many years studying the remaining fossil evidence, and they have discovered that not all birds were able to survive the brutal devastation caused by the asteroid impact. Most bird species of that era lived and nested in trees, but ancient forests around the globe were incinerated by intense wildfires that raged after dust and ash spread throughout the atmosphere. Only those small birds that lived and nested close to the ground managed to persist, making use of crevices, underbrush, or small burrows to shelter themselves from the extreme heat and the increasingly toxic environment. This group of ground-dwelling birds, though very small in number compared to the total population, possessed remarkable adaptability. They were able to move quickly, search for food on the ground, and survive through the prolonged period of darkness and cold that enveloped the Earth for many years. As conditions gradually improved, these birds began to occupy new habitats and evolved into an incredible diversity of forms and ways of life. Over tens of millions of years, it was from this small group that all modern bird species arose, from tiny sparrows to powerful eagles and seabirds soaring across the oceans. This discovery has not only helped scientists better understand the evolutionary history of birds, but it also serves as a reminder of the extraordinary resilience and adaptability of life on Earth. Even in the face of seemingly insurmountable catastrophes, nature always finds a way to revive and flourish, often starting from the most fragile beginnings. The oldest stone tools in Greece. In a coal mine in southern Greece, archaeologists have made a discovery that completely changes our understanding of human history in Europe. While probing deep underground layers, they found simple, handcrafted stone tools dating back as far as 700,000 years. This finding not only surprised researchers but also pushed the archaeological timeline of Greece back by 250,000 years compared to any previous evidence ever recorded. These stone tools include sharp-edged stone fragments, shaped enough to be used for cutting animal meat or chopping wild plants. Although they appear very crude and primitive, their significance is enormous, as they indicate that, at that time, early humans already lived and hunted on what is now Greek soil. Through analysis, scientists believe that the creators of these tools could have been Homo antecessor, an ancient human branch regarded as a common ancestor of both Neanderthals and modern humans. Notably, these stone tools were found alongside fossilized bones of extinct animals, such as ancient elephants, giant deer, and hippopotamuses, showing that the habitat then was entirely different from today, with many large animals roaming the grasslands and riverbanks. This discovery not only expands our knowledge of the first human footprints in Greece, but also highlights the widespread dispersal of ancient human groups across the European continent. From these small stones crafted hundreds of thousands of years ago, scientists gain a clearer picture of a still murky period of history, when our ancestors already knew how to use tools to survive, hunt, and adapt to the harsh environment of prehistory. The Potomsky Crater, Siberia. Deep within the remote taiga forests of Siberia, Russia, the Potomsky Crater stands as one of the strangest mysteries ever recorded by modern science. The crater was first discovered in 1949 by a young geologist named Vadim Kolpakov during a geological survey. When he stumbled upon this structure, the entire landscape around it appeared completely unlike anything he had ever seen before. The Potomsky Crater rises like a gigantic cone, standing over 200 meters above the ground, with a perfectly round depression at its summit, giving the impression of a newly formed volcanic crater. However, as researchers began to approach and conduct field studies, they realized that both the shape and composition of the crater did not resemble any known volcano or typical meteorite crater. The true age of the Potomsky Crater remains a matter of debate. Some scientists believe it was formed around 2,000 years ago, while other analyses suggest it could be either much younger or significantly older. What makes the mystery even harder to explain is that the surrounding trees all display unusual growth patterns. When scientists cut across the trunks to examine the growth rings, they observed that at a certain period in the past, the trees experienced an intense growth spurt for several decades, followed by a sudden decline, a phenomenon usually only seen in areas affected by radiation. However, after repeated tests, researchers have found no evidence of any modern radioactive explosion or lingering radioactive material in the area. This has led to a host of hypotheses, including suggestions that the Potomsky Crater may actually be the landing site of an unidentified flying object, UFO, from ancient times, or perhaps even the remnant of a prehistoric nuclear explosion left by long-lost civilizations with powers beyond our imagination. After more than 70 years, the mystery of the Potomsky Crater still has no definitive answer. Whether it is the result of a bizarre natural event or the trace of a much greater mystery, the Potomsky Crater continues to rest silently in the Siberian wilderness, forever sparking the curiosity of those eager to explore the outermost boundaries of the natural world and human history. The London Beer Flood. On an October afternoon in 1814, the people of London witnessed an event unlike anything the city had ever seen. At that time, the Horseshoe Brewery was bustling with activity, its enormous wooden vats filled to the brim with fermenting porter. No one could have imagined that, in the blink of an eye, the ordinary order of things would be completely overturned. The incident began when one of the brewery's largest tanks suddenly burst open after its iron hoop, weakened by rot, gave way. In a matter of seconds, over 300,000 liters of porter surged forth like a giant wave. The force of the liquid was so great that it smashed through solid brick walls, swept away everything in its path, and created a flood that rushed down rotten wooden staircases. The tragedy unfolded with such speed that most victims had no chance to escape. There were mothers holding their young children, elderly people and children gathered around candlelight, all swept away under the boiling wave of beer. In one house, an entire family was found drowned while preparing for a funeral. Some victims were only a hand's breadth from safety, yet still could not escape the flood. After the torrent subsided, the scene that emerged left all of London in stunned silence. Collapsed houses with the heavy stench of beer lingering in the air, bodies floating on the surface of the water, and basements flattened by the tremendous pressure. While rescue teams struggled to search for victims and clear away the wreckage, public opinion in London became divided over this rare disaster. Many mourned the fate of the unfortunate poor, while others could not help but feel a sense of bitterness and helplessness at the harsh realities of life. In the end, the London beer flood of 1814 is remembered not just as a tragic anecdote, but as a symbol of the fragility of human existence in the face of nature's power and the unpredictable upheavals of industrial society. It also stands as a reminder of the unforeseeable consequences of carelessness and disregard for workplace safety during the early days of the Industrial Revolution. Even today, the story of the beer flood remains a unique scar in the flow of London's history, a place where pain and laughter, alcohol and tears have blended together to create a memory not easily forgotten, even by those who have never set foot in this ancient city. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. If you enjoy mysterious stories and want to learn more about the world around you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos. Don't hesitate to share your thoughts or suggestions in the comments section below. Your feedback is always an inspiration for us to explore new topics. We look forward to seeing you in our next adventure.